my mind would go into these really dark, depressive states, which I didn't realize were even in me, to be honest. During the first semester, I would actually just literally go to my ex's house and I would cry about how much of a failure I am, I don't know what to do in my life, like I'm such a disappointment, etc, etc, etc. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to talk to you about my quarter life crisis I had last year during my final year of university. Can I tell you exactly how to live and what to do? No, but I'm gonna look back at my own experience and reflect exactly what happened and how it happened and exactly how I managed to overcome it. So why did I feel like this? Well, it was basically a combination between external, internal pressures, which kind of accumulated, slowly bubbled up until more or less they exploded. Okay, I'm gonna condense it down to three main things. And the first one being social media. I should have known better, but in reality I didn't. What happened with me is I was basically following a bunch of these entrepreneurs, people around my age, like some 20s, some like mid-20s, etc. And I saw the amount of like just financial success everybody managed to achieve just beyond me, and then I was comparing them to me. Overall, this made me feel very overwhelmed and anxious that I felt like I was behind in life and I didn't really know what I was doing, so I wasn't even going towards that goal, wasn't going towards doing something I actually wanted to do. I was literally just on a conveyor belt finishing university. The thing about social media, a place like Instagram is literally a collection of people's individual highlights, so literally their very finely curated best moments of their lives, and then when you try to compare that to everyday life, it's just not gonna work. I felt that everybody around me has figured out life and figured out business, etc, etc. Meanwhile, I literally didn't know where to even start.
Obviously, that's simply not the case. I know a lot of people who seem really happy online, seem like they're having like the best life, but in reality are incredibly miserable.
Okay, the second pressure was course problems. In general, the course I was doing I didn't really enjoy or want to do anything with it when I finished university. During my final year, I was incredibly stressed and anxious with my dissertation. It started off with my first supervisor basically left university, and I was provided with like a second one. I was like, oh, okay, cool, that's great. And again, I still didn't really have a clue what I was doing in regards to dissertation. So basically what I came up with, the idea, the statement I came up with for my dissertation to answer, I didn't actually know what software to use. I didn't even know if the software can even model this exact thing. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't really know much about dissertations either. Basically, this resulted in me bubbling all this up and not completing not doing dissertation until a few weeks before the actual submission, which was again very stressful, and in retrospect I really shouldn't have done that, but it is what it is. A few weeks remaining and a lot of stress piling up, I figured out a bunch of workarounds which I can use to literally speed up this process. And the funny thing is, just looking back to it, I was stressed about not getting like a second, not even passing my dissertation, because I wouldn't have done well in the course which I didn't even enjoy. And yeah, it's just absolutely crazy. And actually, at the end of all of this, I ended up getting 60% of my dissertation, or like 62 maybe. I don't even know. I can't remember. I don't really care. And yeah, it's just absolutely nuts. Just to what point I managed to actually bring myself to. And the third point being lack of direction. The prospect of doing civil engineering after university made me incredibly miserable. I felt incredibly trapped, like I would be doing this for the rest of my life.
Obviously, that's not the case, but in the headspace I was at, I felt like that was the case, which is just absolutely crazy.
I did a year-long placement, which wasn't quite in civil engineering, but in general just made me very stressed out about what I was doing. Imagine doing something similar for a couple of years. All this kind of, combining all this together, it made me feel like really lost in life, like I was literally just throwing it away. My mind would go into these really dark, depressive states, which I didn't realize were even in me, to be honest. And looking back to it, just absolutely nuts, just the thoughts I would actually have. During the first semester, I would actually just literally go to my ex's house and I would cry about how much of a failure I am, I don't know what to do in my life, like I'm such a disappointment, etc, etc, etc. And looking back to it, it's so fucking pathetic, like the stuff I was saying, the stuff I was thinking. It's just, yeah, it makes me angry I used to even feel like this. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to pass the dissertation, which results in me not getting a first in civil engineering, which is a course I fucking hated. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just absolutely nuts just how I managed to come up with some of these things. It's so funny just to look back at it and just to actually witness that after all of this, after all this stress and worry and anxiety, just feeling so miserable and I wouldn't say depressed, just very low and down, I managed to get 77% in civil engineering, which is basically a quite decently high first. Yeah, it's just bonkers, really. And this was way before I actually started YouTube. at this point, I remember speaking to somebody, I think one of my mentors even, about the whole concept of me starting YouTube. I remember even doing this, made my hand shake because I was just so anxious about it. Yeah, again, just doing things you're actually afraid of, and yeah, it's just nuts. It's just fucking nuts, really. Retrospectively, we can look at this as a bit of a mindful practice, and we can have a look at all these moments where we felt like there was no getting over. We felt like we couldn't go any further, like we were done if like something happened here. But in reality, we actually managed to go through those moments and come out on top. And you felt like that was impossible to actually do it then. And what about some of these moments and some of these things you're experiencing now? You think they're impossible, like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, I don't know how it's going to happen. In reality, you managed to get through it before, we get through it again now. I rewired my brain to habitually put myself in states of looking for problems. 99% of my focus and attention was there to look at different kind of problems I had, and maybe 1%, if that, was focused on solution. Of course I could see any fucking clear solutions. Of course everything I could feel of is just like fight or flight, just how stressed I was, like, oh, I'm not this, I'm not that, etc, etc. So I wouldn't be able to see the solution even if it slapped me in the face, because I was so focused on just looking at the problems, looking at all, analysing different problems, like what could go wrong, how it could go wrong, etc. And then after a while you kind of go into this point where you feel stressed and anxious about being stressed and anxious. So like, oh, why am I stressed and anxious? And you kind of make this into this really huge ball, into this really big problem. Slowly, when I started to shift this attention from focusing at the problems and slowly focusing on solutions, literally just 1% at a time, and slowly I managed to rewire my state. Obviously, that was definitely not an overnight process. It took a fair bit, but we managed to get through it at the end. What you focus on is what you're going to attract. There's a thing in neuroscience, actually probably psychology, a thing called the RAS, your reticular activation system. So whatever you focus on, you're able to see, and in turn, you'll be attracting those things. So this best is demonstrated through this example. So let's have a look around your room. Yeah, you over there, have a look around your room and have a look at all the green things you can see. So I can see some of these plants, I can see a plate in front of me, I can see this green t-shirt. Okay, now you've found all these green things. Close your eyes, think about those green things. Okay, now with closed eyes, think about all the red things you saw. Yeah, it's quite difficult. You weren't actually actively looking for those things, so you trying to recall them was quite hard, if not impossible. Okay, now you can open your eyes again. The same could be said for anything else in life. Your brain can only actively focus on so many things at once. Everything else outsources to subconscious mind. And over time, this becomes a habit. So if all the questions you keep asking yourself, like what's wrong, why am I stressed, why am I anxious, I'm such a failure, etc, 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 your brain will look into the world and reflect those things back to you, because this is exactly what you were looking for. Of course, when you are focused on all the things going wrong, you can see them quite clearly. Okay, so how can you actually rewire this? If you focus on not knowing, obviously you literally just get more of it. But you want to shift the mantra you tell yourself. Every day, I'm learning more and more about the things I want to do in life. This is obviously not wrong. It's like, you can't question that it's not wrong, because every day, okay, cool, you're slowly discovering like exactly what I want to do in life by looking at different videos, reading different books, etc, etc, etc. This is why things like gratitude are just so important, because you're actively rewiring your brain to have a look at all the different things you're actually grateful for, all the things which are good in the world, and in return, you'll start seeing more of those things, and then they'll reflect back to you. Okay, now let's have a look at some practical points on purpose. You have to understand that we have more than one purpose in life, and the thing what brought you purpose maybe 10 years ago is not what going to bring you purpose now. Enjoy now. Here's a quote from Skip the Line by James Altucher. I think that's how you say his name. Your purposes are spread out throughout your life like a bunch of clues in a scavenger hunt. There are multiple ways to win, but you won't win. That is, find your purpose, don't push forward, and continue looking for clues. Find these kind of clues. The first major point in finding those clues is obsession. Find out all the things you're actually obsessed about and chase after them. This is a very good start. And the thing I had to understand is, whatever I'm doing now, it doesn't mean I'll have to do it for the rest of my life. So I thought about, oh, okay, cool, if I'm doing civil engineering, I have to get a civil engineering job and do it for the rest of my life, which is just obviously just not the case. But again, in the state of mind I was in, I just, for some reason, didn't realise this. I thought that I would literally just be doing the same thing over and over again for the rest of my life. And here you want to experiment, constantly keep experimenting. In here, you don't really know what to do, so okay, cool, that's absolutely fine. So you want to try and go into full exploration mode, go to new places, explore new events, meet new people, try and do different activities, maybe start different side hustles, maybe have a look at SMMA, maybe have a look at starting your own YouTube channel, maybe have a look at doing real estate, or maybe have a look at just like all sorts of different things, maybe learning to code, etc., and find out what you like, find out what you don't like, just chasing after those things. So here's some practical exercise which might help you with this. So list all the things you did which made you really happy this month, when or after you actually did it. List all the things you want to try doing. List all the things you're afraid of. Use fear as a compass. For example, for me, it was starting a YouTube channel. I was incredibly afraid of it, and so I did it after 5 years, which is just absolutely crazy, but that's a previous video. Then after that, start experimenting. Again, take baby steps, but just keep doing it every day. Try out certain things. If it's YouTube, try out different like editing techniques, etc. Then you want to experiment those things, literally become an explorer of your own life and the focus of what you actually want to do. Okay, next thing is mindset. Gratitude. 80% of life, whatever you do, is simply mindset, and 20% of it is mechanics, techniques, the formulas, etc. Okay, so on top of the points I just made on gratitude, literally just the whole experience of you not knowing exactly what you're doing, just shift it to gratitude. Be thankful that you don't know what you're doing. Be thankful even having these thoughts, that you actually understand and truly know that you're misaligned with what you want to do. A lot of people actually just stuff it down, pretend it's not there, and maybe in the next 5, 10, 20 years, literally come back down and explode in their faces. And so this will probably have now will be even worse if you try and stuff it down and pretend like it doesn't exist and then address it later. So focusing on what you don't want is a good start. But then, like I was talking about with your RAS, you want to slowly start reprogramming and looking for the things you actually do want, and making sure that the RAS is actually on your side and not against you. Okay, next point is energy distribution. Whenever I started something, after a few weeks or even a few days, I would simply give up because it got too hard. Okay, this works when you're just experimenting and trying to figure out what stuff works. But after a while, this becomes the shiny object syndrome. It's like, oh, okay, this next hack will fix me. Oh, this next book will help. Oh, this course is going to change something. This is a result of living in this instant gratification culture where everything is literally offered us with a click of our fingers. If we have a look at this diagram right here, and we see that if you try to spread your focus and your energy throughout your day into a million different things, you actually get very little done. However, if you focus your attention on just one thing, you'll actually make significant amount of progress in that. So after exploring, you want to figure out what one thing you want to focus on. Let's say it's YouTube, or let's say it's SMMA, or let's say it's making TikToks, etc. And just focus fully on that one thing for 6 months to maybe like a year. Initially, the startup effort is very high. You feel like you're putting so much effort and seeing very little results. So for example, for me, when I started to make YouTube videos, okay, called the YouTube videos now, we're not incredible, but we're alright. But right at the very start, I think the YouTube videos were complete shit, and I was putting just so much effort, just so much attention to it. But in reality, like the outcome I got was quite shit. But after a while of you doing it, the return is exponential, and this becomes a lot easier to you. Okay, but also coming back to this whole thing of this is actually so hard, like I don't understand what I'm doing, etc. And this is actually really good, because let's compare it to the gym. So let's say you're doing some biceps curls and the sets were just really easy and you can move the weight quite easily. You're not actually making any progress. It's not until the sets become incredibly difficult to actually do, that's where majority of the muscle growth is actually made. So when things become really difficult, when you may be making YouTube videos or doing sales calls or doing like any sort of SMMA or real estate, this is good because your mental muscle is actually growing right here. So you actually want to seek out those opportunities of difficulty to actually make this muscle actually grow. Okay, and the next point, which is incredibly important as well, is a point on removing distractions. Okay, it's very difficult to find any sort of solution when you're so busy distracting yourself from life. So let's say per week you're spending about 20 hours on your phone, spend 10 hours on Netflix, you spend 10 hours on YouTube, probably maybe even close to 15, 20 hours, you spend about 10 hours on porn. Of course you're not going to get anything meaningful done because this is the only thing you're actually focusing on. I understand that these distractions make you feel better about your life, or at least it numbs you out or distracts you from what you're actually doing. There's some things you can do to actually rewire your brain from this, but obviously this is going to be difficult. Some of these social media brands have spent billions of dollars on simply just figuring out how your psychology works, and so you can actually use that against you for keeping you on the platforms for longer, which of course you understand because it's just a business. We're just trying to drive growth. But in reality, for yourself, that this is not great at all. So you want to try and actively go against it. Some things which help me is like one of the biggest ones is meditation. Trying to just do nothing. And some other stuff is exercising, going to the gym, having enough sleep is also really important. Having some sort of like dopamine detox, where you do nothing for maybe 24 hours, maybe even 3 days. Or if you want to take it to the whole other level, a video I'm going to make in the near future is on Vipassana meditation retreats, which are 10-day silent meditation retreats, which are absolutely crazy, and then they can do a lot for you. And now, after doing all of this, just keep experimenting and keep trying until something actually sticks. Whether it's YouTube or whether it's SMMA, just keep trying. Do one thing for maybe 3 months to a year, 2, 3, 4 years, and see what works, see what doesn't. Just see what we get up to. And you want to focus on step 1 and step 2, not step 2 to like 5,000. We kind of like compare ourselves to these crazy YouTubers, these entrepreneurs, and then they're on step 1,000 or like 500 of the journey. But when you kind of take a step back and observe where all these people actually came from, so on YouTube you can sort the videos from oldest to newest, and you can have a look at YouTube, different content creators' first videos, and realize they were fucking shit as well. And it's the process of them sticking to it and slowly getting better over time. That's how we got incredibly good at what we're doing. Okay, one really big thing I spoke about, your whole attention diet, what you consume online. So you are the 5 creators you consume the most. I actually made a video about it right here, talking about this concept, so definitely do check it out. Bye.